Thank you.
All right, let's continue with coverage of what's happening on the ground in Florida. Treasure Island is situated on the Gulf of Mexico. It's just west of Tampa and hit hard by Hurricane Helene, then Milton a few weeks later. That community is still struggling. Locals are packed into hotel rooms, the same rooms typically filled with snowbirds this time of year. So let's bring in NewsNation's Ryan Bass, who is live for us in Treasure Island. And Ryan, we know that rebuilding takes time, but the people that you've spoken with, they're frustrated.
They're frustrated with how slow the process is, Nichole. I mean, keep in mind, Hurricane Helene, which impacted our area even more so than Hurricane Milton did, and those two storms were 13 days apart. Helene made landfall in Florida on September 26th. We're almost 2 months later, and you still see communities like here in Treasure Island that look like this. Look at this apartment complex, Nichole. I mean, look how high the sand is pushed up in front of this little apartment complex that has about 6, 7 units. And you could see the couch that poured out through the windows of this apartment complex here in Treasure Island. I want to take you around the back of this house, Nichole, because I think this really goes to show you and speak to the damage we saw. We spoke to some officials here. About 2,000 homes and businesses were impacted from this storm on just this island alone. 2,000 homes and businesses to the folks that call Treasure Island home. And this is a beautiful beachfront property. This is a private apartment complex here, usually one of the most coveted pieces of land here. And look what it did for this storm to this apartment complex. You can see right into the back of this apartment complex here and how powerful the storm surge was, that it pushed everything inward. And the damage is still very extensive here as folks are continuing to try and pick up the pieces. And this is just one example of the dozens and dozens of homes and apartment complexes and communities that we've seen across Treasure Island, Florida. I did speak with one woman. Her name is Sherry. Her and her mother and her family owns a number of apartment complexes that are along the waterfront, just a short distance from here. She said that is their livelihood. They have had annual renters back out. They have had vacation bookings cancel all the way through January. That is how they make a living. She was too emotional to go on camera with us. She was so frustrated with this process. And the key thing for her is they can't get permitting. The city of Treasure Island has had over 700 requests for permits. They get about 1,600 in a year. They've had 700 since this storm. And it isn't just FEMA. It's been a trickle-down effect from the state to the city and to the local community. We spoke with some of the officials here from Treasure Island that have talked about just how unfathomable this experience has been and how patient they're asking people to be with this process. Take a listen.
We've never had to really do it on this large of a scale. And so the city's figuring it out, the state's figuring it out, people are realizing what it means to live on a barrier island and to have to go through all this rebuilding process. And so it's just a learning experience for everybody. And there's going to be some painful times, and it is a painful time. We hate seeing so many homes damaged and so many businesses. Many of our businesses are still not open, and it's sad to see.
There have been just so many people that have been impacted in this community, certainly from all of this. And again, they're preaching patience. Up the road, there's the Bilmar Hotel that exists here just on Gulf Boulevard. And I had a chance to speak to the general manager, Clyde, there. He says that they have 96 rooms. 100% occupancy is from folks that have been displaced in this community. FEMA is actually picking up the tab for all of those people to stay there until January, if need be, Nichole. So we're seeing a lot of those folks that are getting taken care of in this community. FEMA has responded. Folks on the ground here are getting help. And certainly a lot of the concern is trying to rebuild communities like this that have been so devastatedly affected by these storms, Nichole.
Yeah, when we see that level of damage there, Ryan, is there any sense of when things may start to feel a bit more like normal?
So in talking to folks here, especially Jason, he had given me the timeline of summer of 2025. And keep in mind, this is a community that relies so heavily on its tourism, an $11 billion impact in Pinellas County alone annually from tourists that come here. This county sees anywhere from 11 to 15 million people that come through. And this is in a time of the season, Nichole, where you tend to see a lot of those folks. Wintertime, those snowbirds come down, and yet bars, restaurants, hotels are either damaged to where people can't get inside or occupied by those that have been displaced in communities like this. So they're estimating that it's going to take months to get back to some semblance of normalcy, and they're hoping that they can get by until then. But again, this is the aftermath and what folks are dealing with here in neighborhoods like Treasure Island across the state of Florida, Nichole.
Yeah, Ryan Bass live for us there in Florida. Ryan, thank you. Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find News Nation on your screen. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.